Thank you, everyone. Hello. Good morning. I hope you're enjoying this great start of the day. I could almost feel the sun rising with the music, right? On a new day, a new beginning where we can feel the opportunity to start something fresh, something new. And congratulations to the organizers of this wonderful event. It's really something to see such a large event and was organized, I understand, by the Spiritual Health Department of Thai Health Promotion Fund. I think it's something quite unique to talk about spiritual health. So, yeah, I think you should be proud in Thailand to have that consciousness of the importance of holistic health and spiritual health. I think in the music, I've heard the translation talking about, I think it said, come back, so that you can stop the earth crying. And I think it's really about what I will share my journey with you today is really in a sense about that, about coming back to oneself, so that we can be in support of Mother Earth. And I feel very happy also to be talking to young people today in particular, because I feel very connected to the young person, let's say, I once was, and what I still am. I still feel it's here with me. And maybe I invite you just to also feel for some of us that are not that young on our passport, at least, to be able to feel. You can put your hands into your heart and feel that young person with us. And for me, I have to say, it's very healing for that young teenager, young adult I once was, who decided to commit to that spiritual journey, and seeing that now, more than 20 years after that has led me to write this book, for example, to carry on this work in the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, and to be here in front of you today to share that journey. It really feels it was worthwhile. So, and I want to thank also the Food Spirit team for bringing me here as wonderful partners in this Conscious Food Systems Alliance. So to share my journey, I was, more than 20 years ago, I was a student in Paris, right? And was a lot of beautiful experience at that time, discovering the world and really feeling the depths of life and the opportunities that comes with it. But at the same time, I know that this time can be difficult. I remember I had my insecurities. Sometimes I was feeling hard to fit in society. And I think I was also a little bit scared because I couldn't see in the people around me, I couldn't see much of a model of the kind of life that I thought would be fulfilling. And I couldn't see much of that around me. So that was also a bit scary. And I wondered to myself, what I wanted to do in my life. And at that time, the answer I got was, I want to do something that can make me dream, right? And I couldn't see that much around me. And my chance was to be part of a student exchange, which leads me to, when I was 22, which leads me to Mexico. And there I was able to connect with native spirituality in Mexico, with some shamans. And I think for the first time of my life, I really saw a clear spiritual path. And to me, that was something in me was able to immediately recognize that this was what I always looked for. I was not able until then to put a name on it. It's a spiritual journey, but I recognized instantly once I was hearing a teaching of a shaman and we were in ceremony, and I recognized this is what I've always looked for, and this is what I want to dedicate my life to. So, and this shaman, actually, who was a teacher for me for a couple of years, was also a doctor. So he had that, ancient spirituality connection, and but also he was trained as a modern doctor. And I could see that his professional life and his spiritual life was one somehow. I could see there was this alignment which made his intention, I would say, so powerful. So that was an inspiration for me. And that connection with native spirituality was really for me a reconnection to the earth. And I would say through that reconnection to the earth, a deep reconnection to myself also. And once I was in an indigenous community in central Mexico in the mountain, and I was walking alone. There was a big canyon. It was all arid, not so many plants, very calm. And on the other side of the canyon, maybe 200, 300 meters on the other side, there was a forest. And somehow, I felt that connection to the forest. I was drawn to it. And at some point, there was a vast space that I felt opening inside of me. And I could feel the forest on the other side, as if I was on the other side. And that was really a very special moment for me. I could feel the energy of the forest. I could feel I was part of the forest, and the forest was part of me. And so that reconnection to Mother Earth to me had to do very much with the forest. And that led me a few years later to do a PhD in ecological economics on forest conservation in Costa Rica. I was in a deep personal crisis at some point, and I wanted to let go of my PhD. But somehow my PhD director said, no, you're committed for this mission. You have to go to Costa Rica. And maybe then, if you want, you can end up your PhD if you prefer, but you have to go. And someone very close to me told me, there's always a reason for things to happen. Maybe you have someone to meet in Costa Rica. So I went to Costa Rica. I was feeling very lonely in this new country. And I was looking for a room to stay for 2 months to do my research. And I ended up renting a room to a woman who later on became my wife. So, and and the first thing she told me, okay, so you're French. There's actually a place I like to know in France. It's called Plum Village. It's a monastery of Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, and I didn't know that place yet. So, later on in time, after 2 years of being best friends, we got together and then married, and she came to live to France. And we went to that place, Plum Village. And even before going, I could feel there was something there for me. And after 2 days of being there in a retreat, in the morning, there was this teaching by Thich Nhat Hanh, and there was especially this song to Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion. And I felt so much energy in the monks and nuns and Thich Nhat Hanh singing this song, and I felt, wow, there is something that is happening in this remote part of France, and something we want to be part of, right? So 2 months after, we came back for another retreat, for another week, and Thich Nhat Hanh was sick, and we saw, okay, there is no time to lose. It's here and it's now. And a few months later, we moved there, and we have been living there for now 10 years. So through this PhD in ecological economics, I started to work also for forest conservation, and that led me to different places. And as I was doing this environmental work, I realized there is little we can hope achieve from Mother Earth until we really change our development model or development paradigm. The one we have now, focused on economic growth, if that's our vision of the good life, it's too much antagonistic with planetary boundaries. There is really, we need to change that. We need to change our vision of progress and what are the kind of good lives that we want to build. So that's why I started working on this book, which took me 10 years of work. And I will mention it a bit more after. And as I was finishing writing this book, I did a lot of research to understand, that topic of collective, cultural, spiritual evolution. I was really wondering, okay, now I have eaten my savings, I need to go back to work. I find my work very meaningful, but at the same time, I know I was drawn in a slightly different direction, or a deepening, bringing that spiritual dimension into it. And it's a very new field. No, there was not so much opportunity for work on that. But it's really at this moment that I connected with someone from the United Nations Development Program. I had already worked with his team. And he told me, look, what we're doing is not really working enough. It's not enough impactful. And we need to bring that spiritual dimension into it. And I want to develop an initiative around that. And he's heading food systems within UNDP. So he hired me to develop what would become this Conscious Food Systems Alliance. So as I said, I feel very connected to the young people nowadays. Also knowing it's a very difficult time we're experiencing on Earth right now. And I know during COVID there have been some statistics there have been some polls around the world to ask young people how they feel, and also about eco-anxiety, right? And what come out of it, 75% of young people globally said that the future is frightening. 75%. So let's see who can relate to that, can feel that the future is frightening. Thank you. And I think congratulations, I would say, because we are able to look directly to the reality. We are not afraid of looking deeply into these problems, right? And when I was young, as I mentioned, I was aware of what was going wrong within myself. I was aware of that suffering, and I could see. First, I was wondering if I was alone in that, but then looking at the people around me, I could see that they were also very much suffering. And so I was feeling maybe they were pretending, not to suffer, because that's not so cool, when you're young. But then I realized actually, no, actually they're just not able to acknowledge. They are not able to open up what's going on inside and to acknowledge that suffering. And that's the first noble truth of Buddhism, right? Awareness of suffering. And I think if I look, I think that's really the first door to be crossed on the spiritual journey. And I want to share also to the young people that who feels, frightened and maybe depressed. I want to say that this is a very normal process. Actually now, we have scientists that are reframing that understanding of young people's mental health. So it's not depression, is not actually at that time, is not a sickness. It's really part of life. It's natural. And we think that 75%, actually the same number somehow, of young people will experience some kind of depression, maybe mild depression, maybe stronger. So actually it's not a disease because it's part of life. And it's part of the spiritual journey, actually. It's a search for oneself. It's a search for meaning. And science now tells us that if young people are able to go through that process and find themselves and find their purpose and their meaning in life, actually that time can be the foundation for a thriving life, for a flourishing life. So, there is, what we experience in our individual journey is very much related to what we experience at a collective level, right? So at the moment, the future looks frightening. But I believe we are on the verge of a major global, cultural, and even spiritual evolution. Who here think that may happen in this century? Can raise your hands also. Thanks. So that's my message for today, especially to the young people, is to actually join that which I think is the greatest enterprise of our times, is to be part of this process of collective evolution. Some spiritual traditions have prophesied it and have even talked about the coming of age of humanity, a difficult birth of a global civilization based on spiritual values that can know how to live in harmony with Mother Earth. So the polycrisis, that's what is the theme of today's discussion. We use that language even at the level of the UN Secretary General, for example, to talk about our times, where we see the different crises coming together. All of our social systems somehow seem to be falling apart, right? But I think what we have, so whether it's ecological systems, political systems, social systems, etc., there seems to have, they're all in crisis. So we can ask ourselves, what is the common root of these different crises? And actually the common root is a same way of thinking, of relating to each other, of inhabiting the world and living our lives, right? And that same mindset, that same culture is the modern mindset, the modernity, and its set of values, individualism, materialism, anthropocentrism, reductionism, even especially in science, trying to analyze everything, only the parts, but not seeing the whole picture. So this is, and modernity, has brought a lot of benefits to humanity, economic development, scientific development, etc. But it has now come to an end of what it can do for us. And that's why we need to evolve culturally, as it has been the case in the past, right? So, and actually we have a new people that are looking at the evolution of cultures globally. I'm talking about the best scientists. They are seeing that cultural evolution at play, right? And that modern mindset was based also, and these values were based on an understanding of the world, of who we are as human beings also. That was very much related to a science of the 19th century. And now science is starting to bring new answers to these questions of what is the universe, how reality works, what are we as human beings, what's potential even as a society. And these different answers together are starting to develop a new narrative, a new mindset, a new culture. Some people call it the story of interbeing, where we can only thrive together as one Earth community. And actually, human thriving is not about money or fame or power. It's about realizing our full potential as human beings and being able to offer our gifts in this process of collective evolution. So, yeah, we have to understand that it's very simply, in the last 2 centuries, with modernity, we have invested a lot of our efforts and attention into science, into technology, and but we have not invested the same amount of efforts into our wisdom, into developing our consciousness, right? So there is this disbalance between the power that we now have on nature. We're talking about the Anthropocene, right? Where humanity has become a very important power on the evolution of the Earth. But we don't have the wisdom that we need to manage effectively that power. And that technological development has made economic development, has made our world also very complex. And we have not developed the consciousness to deal with that complexity. So, even some people think that our survival as the human species, right, is at stake because of the ecological crisis, because of wars, and the fact that we now have nuclear weapons, because of AI. Now we even have someone the media consider the creator of AI saying that there is now like 20% chance that in the coming decades humanity destroy itself because of AI. So there's a lot of challenges that we are facing, and I can't think we can deal with them with the same level of consciousness that we have right now. So, and I just want also to welcome, the challenges that are coming on us. They are part of human evolution. That's how humanity evolves in response. That's how life evolves in response to challenges. And I don't think we will be able to make that collective evolution without our very survival being at stake. I mean, knowing a little bit about how we function as human beings, and often we really need to be in a bad place to change, right? So I think we need to embrace that and focus on the positive aspect. Not focus so much on the breakdown that are coming, but on the potential breakthrough. And scholars looking at human history, there is a book called Religion in Human Evolution, where it says, after the breakdown comes the breakthrough. So that's what we have seen in history so far. So I would say, let's not be too impressed about the darkness rising. Actually, it is coming to light. It was there, it's coming to light, like a disease. When it's manifesting, that means we are already on the process of healing, right? So, in that process, I mean, when I was in Mexico 20 years ago, there was this Mayan prophecy at that time, saying that 2012 would mark a change of consciousness. And according to the Mayan, it's a new era starting of 25,000 years. So it's really a big deal, let's say, And I was wondering that my invitation also to each one of you, to find your own contribution. What are the gifts you are there to offer in that collective process we're in? And myself, I heard that calling to work on this book. And that's what I had, I've put so much effort, and I would say so much love and so much hope in these ideas. And sometimes people feel impressed by me committing so much effort into that work. And they ask me, how did I find the inspiration? And I would say that I was just so aware that this seems so important for the world nowadays, to have a spiritual vision for how to organize society. I was wondering even why no one has written yet that book. And it was a book I really wanted to read myself. And each time I was contemplating on all, I contemplated a long time. I lived next to this monastery, so I had a lot of time to digest, what I was learning and reading. And each time I would come to a clearer understanding when things get more simple to be communicated more easily. I was telling my wife, I'm wondering why no one has yet written that. And she said, but maybe it's for you it was for you to write it. And so it has been, I was doing these 10 years. It was not, it was not a given that it would be a success. No, it has won an international award, etc. So I was, really rather lonely and doing a lot of this work without knowing, what would happen out of it. And actually, I was surprised when I started to share about that work, and people were impressed about me working 10 years on it. That felt good because I didn't even think about it when I was doing it. I was trying to find that wisdom approach to development, trying to rethink what we mean by development, and also what is the way that we can support this collective evolution. And I'm a social scientist, so I know that individuals are shaped by the society they are living in, right? So and often when we talk about that process of evolution, we think about people doing their own, now what we call in science, inner transition, and somehow that will impact society. But my focus was more on the other question, what are the laws and policies that can embody this conscious evolution and facilitate, because I believe we need to bring everyone into that evolution. I think what we see now is, for example, people voting for Trump or something, is really that kind of people feeling left out or not being able to evolve. So for that to happen, we need to organize societies in a way that, based on different principles, different values, so that societies can help nurture these values in ourselves. Right now, some scientists agree that the understanding of human beings from the economic science, the Homo economicus, is an assumption that we would be all selfish and competitive, and most of our institutions are based on that understanding. So actually our society is not really nourishing the good seeds in each of us, but we can change that. And in that book I wanted to offer that deep spiritual vision for society, but I wanted also to be very concrete and action-oriented. And in this book, I have 9 sectoral chapters on policies, laws, systems in these different sectors. And they are all based mainly on existing examples. So this is something very concrete also. And actually, I think people who are looking for solutions in all these different fields, in education, in health, in governance, in justice, they are coming with these new paradigms that have essentially a spiritual essence to it. So I think this politics of being is emerging naturally in the world because there are the answers. We have gone so much in the other direction, so much imbalance, that now the solutions to many of our problems is in that, in that inner solutions, right? Inner pathways to change. And so, for example, in the field of health, I think integrative health is a new paradigm. It's about prevention and well-being instead as a focus of sickness, right? It's about most of our diseases are no longer, like in the past, infectious disease. They are more chronic disease, and they are linked with our lifestyles, right? So now policy should empower individuals to adopt more healthy lifestyles, more healthy diets, less stress. And, in Ayurveda, it is thought that, the disease are a reflection of lifestyle, and the lifestyles are a reflection of our mental health, maybe even spiritual health, right? So that's the direction we need to come. We need to focus more on mental health, spiritual health. And there are lots of studies that show the potential of that in terms of economic, even returns for societies. So, I hope that the calling I'm making today is resonating with you. Mainly, I would say to commit to your own spiritual journey. I feel that's the best advice I can give to you, and to be in service of this collective process, and especially, through your work. I invite you to hopefully come in touch with the materials that I've developed around politics of being. There is a website, www.politicsofbeing.com, and there's a YouTube channel. There's a lot of information there. And I hope to see you around. We have a conscious food spirit track coming. So I really invite you also to be part of, even join our Conscious Food Systems Alliance. And I leave you with this quote that is the last quote of my book. I'm spoiling it a little bit, which is from John Lennon. It says, "A dream you dream alone is only a dream. A dream you dream together is reality." Thank you.